No need to check your headset or the link you just clicked. This is indeed the Downloadable Opinions podcast. I am the villainous Adam Gayton here, flying solo, here for episode 18. We got a whole new intro here, as you can tell. We got a brand new song. This is Heart Cannon from Carbohydro M. You can check him out at carbohydrom.net. That's carbohydrom.net. He's got a lot of good tracks on there, a lot of remixes of songs. This one, of course, if you can tell, is the intro to Mega Man 2. It's a nice remix to that. He's got a whole bunch of other stuff from other Mega Man games, Super Mario, Kingdom Hearts, Metal Gear Solid. You know, it's all over the place. He's got a lot of good tracks. Check them out. They're free. You know, this guy's a really amazing musician, so, you know, give him a look. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about today. I am flying solo. This is interesting for me. I got to be able to talk for what I think is going to be an hour at the time of this recording. We'll see. But we got a few things to talk about. We have Disney shutting down LucasArts, which is not sitting well with a lot of people, that's for sure. We also have the next Xbox, maybe an always-on DRM kind of system like SimCity and Diablo 3 and all the other, you know, projects that have worked so well with it, so that's another deal. And we have yet another U.S. senator calling games a negative influence, so we get to go with that again. We also have releases for this upcoming week, and, you know, a whole bunch of other things that I'll probably get off topic about, but, you know, that's how things usually work around here. But first, I need to start with this. For anybody who's watched this channel at somewhat of a basis, and I mean that very loosely because, you know, there's not a lot of views on the channel, but there has been a number of changes over the last few months, and videos aren't being posted, you know, very, I guess, regularly is probably the best word. There's a lot of reasons about that, and the first one begins with, obviously, that I'm doing this on my own. I'm flying solo today. Brian Best is in school, and he's also got a whole bunch of other duties at the same time. I don't know if he's the president or if he's the head of it, but it's something to do with student council, and that's taking up a lot of his time. You know, when we did the end of the year podcast, that was only because of the holidays, and then when we did the PlayStation 4 announcement podcast, that was a pretty sporadic time where we both had, you know, time off. And in my case as well, it's about the same. My schedule's going all over the place. I mean, I'm lucky actually now because normally the way that my job works is I switch shift times every week. I'm working mornings one week, then I'm working afternoons or nights the next. Now, because, you know, apparently I'm the only one that likes it, I'm working midnight shifts, you know, at a permanent basis. And that gives me 3 days off every week because there are 4 12-hour shifts a week. So right now it's 2:24 in the morning here, and, you know, this gives me quite a bit of time now every night for 3 nights that I can do this and be able to do this, you know, on a you know, a regular basis, a weekly basis. So the problem originally is that it was really hard to find a lot of time to really put some content together. And if you had been paying attention to the channel for the last couple of weeks, you would have noticed that for about 2 weeks, I managed to post a daily rant Monday to Friday, except for the second week, which stopped on the Thursday. That was an idea that I came up with originally just to, you know, put some content back on the channel. And it was also to test myself because there hasn't been a lot coming on the channel, and it hasn't made me exactly happy about that. I started this channel with Brian and Amsel, who was here for the first few podcasts, because, you know, it was something to do, and it was something I was really passionate about. The problem is that, you know, it's really hard to find a lot of time to record stuff. And when it came to the daily rant stuff, the idea was, you know, I figured I'm always ticked off about something every day. I'm sure I'll have something I can, you know, record every day. The problem is that was not as true as I'd like to be. I did always have something bugging me every day, but most of the time it was either something really personal or it was just really local. And considering how this stuff is going on the internet, I don't think anybody really wants to hear what's going on in my vicinity all the time. So, especially in gaming, there's not always a lot going on. I mean, there's a couple bombshells, you know, maybe every week, but you don't really get too many golden stories, at least nothing that's confirmed. It's a lot of rumors, but I don't really like talking about rumors so much because, you know, you can never confirm anything and you'd be wasting energy on something that might not actually exist. So when I got lucky now and I'm on this permanent midnight shift, this gives me an opportunity now to, at least for the foreseeable future, to really start, having a lot of time to put things together. I mean, it's quiet in the house here where I'm recording pretty much from midnight on, and I'm staying up till 6 in the morning because my shifts are 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., 4 days a week. So, I'm sticking with that routine. So, with that being said, this is something I'm trying to, keep going with the channel because I want this to work and I really love doing this. As much as, it probably just sounded like for the last 2 minutes it wasn't so much. And it may not sound like it because, it is 2:30 in the morning. I'm trying to stay awake here. I've had a little bit of Diet Coke, something I shouldn't have drank just before this podcast, but, I gotta stay awake. Anyway, so I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to be able to find time to do this every week. Hopefully, I'll be releasing this every Sunday. That's the goal. And if I'm lucky, we might be getting this also on iTunes. I'm looking into that. So that's pretty exciting to me as well because I want to push this as much as I can, whether it works or not. At least it's something I can say, hey, I tried. The other thing I want to try to start doing is to start recording more game footage. You saw at one point I tried to do a demo for Resident Evil 6. That didn't work out so well, mainly because the game was kind of bad, but it's something that I want to look into more, especially now that I have time when everybody else is not around, so I can really, convey myself on there without having to worry about, everybody else going, what the heck are you doing, Adam? So there's a lot of things that I'm thinking about doing. I mean, I got Bioshock Infinite. I'm going to try to record the entire playthrough with, microphone. I'm not going to do the face cam stuff because I don't have a webcam and I'm not sure my laptop's going to put up with that very well. I also have a few other games that I'm probably just going to have multiplayer mashups of. I might end up doing something with my community. For those who don't know, I am a leader of a community. It's called the Critical Strike Gaming Community, where we do a lot of stuff ranging from NHL to Minecraft to Call of Duty. We go all over the place. So it's something I might think of putting on too, so it keeps content running. I want to try to get to the point where I have something I can post every day. The idea is that on these 3 nights, I should say, where I have all this time to record, I should record enough game footage that I can post snippets every day. So in the case of, say, I'm playing Bioshock and getting through that run through, I'm planning on hopefully, piecing it into maybe 10 to 15 minute, video clips to put together. And that can really span it out, and I can do that. I'm obviously not going to post one a day from one game. That would be kind of boring. You just seeing the same thing over and over again. I try to give some variety in there. So there's a lot going on, and I'm really happy to have this chance to at least see if I can push myself. I'm always trying to better myself. I'm always trying to see just how far I can take things. And I mean, at the end of the day, this is something I'm doing for fun. Sometimes it really does feel like work. That's why I stopped doing the daily rants, because when I couldn't find a subject as easily, I was trying to make stuff up. And when you're trying to make stuff up, you keep thinking, oh, well, I don't know if they're going to like this. It might just be something that, doesn't really work with them. I mean, I did a rant, for God's sakes, on just seeing too many people in a lineup next to a Tim Hortons just getting a cup of coffee. So, you start running out of things after a while. So with that being said, I'm going to try to keep going with this. We're going to try to make this really work really well. I don't know where Brian stands on this yet. I haven't talked to him just yet. There's a lot of things going on with him. I'm trying to, let him deal with that stuff. The other part that I'm kind of worried about at the same time too is that at the end of the summer, I'll be going back to school. So I got to wonder if I can put up with this. So hopefully for the next at least 5 months, there's a lot going on and there's a lot of stuff for you guys that you can watch and enjoy. So for now, everything's on easy street, and we'll see how things go when things get better. And hopefully the viewership gets bigger, especially if I do end up getting this stuff on iTunes and really start pushing this. Because, I don't want this to be something that I can just go back and say, oh yeah, look, I maybe got like 50 views on this one thing. I want to at least say, my goal personally is to get one video by the end of this summer up to 1,000. And that doesn't seem like much of a goal, but you got to start somewhere, considering that the best we've got, I think, is maybe, I don't know, maybe just over 100, I think. I haven't checked the channel recently. I mean, since I started posting up the daily rants, the best one was the SimCity one, and I got 24 views. It really, it seems like a lot to me at the time, because I don't, that's a lot of people actually watching something that I did. And I wasn't always a very popular guy, so it's something that surprises me. But the idea is if I convey a much better message and I keep releasing stuff that's interesting to you guys, which I hope is interesting to you guys, it's something that I can keep going with and something that can get better. So with that being said, I'm going to stop being depressing and talking about my vision and stuff. You don't care about that. So let's get on to some content. The big bit was Disney shutting down LucasArts, and a lot of people are not happy about it. And I don't blame anybody. I mean, they were not really having a good track record, at the tail end of things. I mean, the last two things that came out with their name on the license was Angry Birds Star Wars and Kinect Star Wars. So that's not really, the greatest thing. Now, this has a lot of implications. LucasArts, for those of you that don't know too much about them, they've been around since 1982. And they've made a lot of stuff that wasn't just Star Wars. A lot of people forget some of the stuff that these guys made. So a couple of things, and these are three games, or really, yeah, three games that, really mean a lot to me and a lot of gamers for sure. Monkey Island, or The Secret of Monkey Island, a lot of people love the point-and-click adventure games. Grim Fandango, which is a real cult favorite. A lot of people really love that game and are now really sad that they're never going to see a sequel to it or anything like that. A game that has a dear place in my heart, and I'm sure a lot of people that played the SNES will think too, Zombies Ate My Neighbors was also part of LucasArts. So, and we're not even counting all the Star Wars stuff, which is just a colossal number. I was looking at the Wikipedia page of the massive list of games that have come out with LucasArts' name on it. It's like, wow, I didn't realize there were that many Star Wars games. But the big deal is that it shuts down a couple games now. Star Wars 1313 and First Assault are no longer existed. They're completely canned, and over 150 people have been laid off. And I don't really get why this happened. I mean, generally, when Disney has been owning other companies like, say, Pixar and Marvel, they've let them go do their own thing. And I figured when they bought the rights to Star Wars and got LucasArts, I'm thinking, okay, I don't see too much of a change going in. They'll keep a watchful eye on LucasArts, but they're not going to really stick their nose in. They're not going to completely take over the company or whatever. And surely nobody thought that they would can them. Although it seemed that once things went along since the purchase of Star Wars, that there seemed to be more signs. It seemed like they weren't going to start anything else, and then rumors started circulating for the last couple of months that maybe LucasArts was getting canned. And I think a lot of people just thought, I can't imagine them getting shut down, and now they have. And it's really troublesome, especially to a guy like me who played a lot of LucasArts games, and I'm sure a lot of people think the same way too. I mean, Knights of the Old Republic and the Old Republic, BioWare having, making those games obviously, but still LucasArts' name on it is all over it. You got Republic Commando, you've got all the Battlefront games, and, The Force Unleashed, and as bad as the second one was, we'll not count that, but there was a lot of good games that came out with LucasArts' name on it. And it's troublesome. It really bothers me because you don't expect that. And it really is shocking that they've shut it down. And a lot of people are not happy about it, and I really don't blame them. It just makes people worry even further about the films, especially because, we're all wondering, okay, well, this is what they're doing now to the games division. What the hell are they going to do with the films that they're doing? And I still want to believe that the movies are going to be good again, because I feel that out of George Lucas's hands and in somebody else's hands with a whole new vision, that it can be good again. I'm praying that it doesn't just turn into a children's movie, but, it's Disney, so it can go either way. I mean, like I said, with Marvel, they really haven't touched much of it. They're letting them do their own thing, so you never know. It's hard to tell. You can never make any assumptions, and, I mean, especially with Disney, you never know what's going on. I mean, you have to admit there's going to be some decency to it, because obviously, this is a company that makes billions of dollars. They're going to do something good with it. It might not be the kind of good we're hoping for, but I mean, the hope is that at least isn't episode 1. So, But the other question that gets involved in this is, what happens with all the Star Wars games in general? Are we ever going to see them again? I imagine that there's no way they're not going to ever make a Star Wars game again. I mean, especially when the movies come out, they'll have some movie tie-in game or whatever, some crappy game that was put together in 6 months and you still have to pay $60 for, which you shouldn't. But that's a whole nother story. I mean, the basic assumption is that they're gonna, they're gonna just sell the license off to other companies, other publishers and developers, so that they can put their own thing out. I mean, I can't imagine that they're gonna tell BioWare that they can't do anything with that license anymore, especially because BioWare's done a relatively good job with it. And I mean, I know some people were a little iffy about the Old Republic, and that game really hasn't succeeded very well. That's partially just because MMORPGs are no good unless you're Warcraft. But considering that they made Knights of the Old Republic, a lot of people still love those two games. I imagine if BioWare wanted to make a third Knights, I don't think Disney would ever have a problem with it and say, yeah, go for it. But the reality that somebody like Activision, oh, I just pissed a few people off already. The fact that a company like them could temporarily buy the license off them so they can create a game with the Star Wars name on it, it's a little worrisome. I'm not so sure I'm gonna warm up to this idea right off the bat. I mean, it could work. It could work in a good way. There's a lot of genuine companies out there that could do something good with that license, and I really hope that that's what Disney is planning on doing. It could even be to the point that Disney might just start their own extra. Like, I don't know if they have a games division. If they do, I'm not sure what it's called. I'd have to look into that. But I mean, I'm sure that if they don't sell the license out, they're already planning on putting together their own group of guys to start making Star Wars games. Who knows? You never know. You can only assume. The hope is that I would rather they sell it off to some reputable developers, not just giving it off to whoever just is the highest bidder. Like, give it to somebody who you look at and say, okay, you know what, they can run with this. They can actually make some money off this and actually make something that won't make us look bad for selling it to them. But I think we all know what the reality is. It's either going to be Disney trying to make them, or they're going to sell it off to somebody that we're not going to want to make them. So I mean, my personal view on this is I'm not too much of a Star Wars fan, so for me, it's not the biggest deal, but I never like seeing a studio get shut down. Even if Activision just tomorrow went bankrupt or EA went bankrupt just like that and stopped, I wouldn't be happy about it. You don't ever want to see a developer in this business go, because that's one less developer that's making games and pushing this medium forward. We can't afford this right now. It's it's not something we want. It's not something gamers want. You don't want, developers getting shut down. You don't want any companies getting shut down in this industry, especially one with a reputation like LucasArts. And I mean, it has nothing. To me, it doesn't have anything to do with it just being Star Wars. Like, they made a lot of good games, especially in the '90s, that people will remember for the rest of their lives. And to see a company like them get shut down just like that, like it was nothing, and it came out of left field, I think, for some people, because I completely had forgotten about the whole rumors of them getting shut down back in February. I completely forgot about it, so it completely caught me off guard when I found out the news. But hopefully, this isn't the end of Star Wars games. Well, it's not the end of Star Wars games, but I hope all the people that just got laid off, I hope they find jobs in another developer. I hope, because I don't want to ever see anybody out of work, because now that's money that they don't get to feed their families with. That's not good. So here's to all the people from LucasArts. I wish you guys the best. I hope you guys get back to work as soon as possible. And you guys have done a really good job. Despite some games that have been released, you guys have done the best you can with a license that, no matter what you do, is going to be under absolutely harsh criticism. And, let's just hope that in the future we're going to see Star Wars games again, and not only Star Wars games again, but good Star Wars games again. Now, The next bit that I want to talk about is something that has not been rubbing people the right way either. And it's coming back to the whole errors with Diablo 3 and SimCity with the servers not being able to handle load, and what a lot of MMORPGs have because they can't prepare for the server load. There is the rumor that the next Xbox will require a connection at all times, and that if at any point that connection goes out, you have about 3 minutes to get it back, otherwise the game will be suspended. It will be paused, I guess, in a sense, if you don't understand suspended as much. It doesn't mean that, the game's going to be like, oh yeah, you don't get to play this game for X amount of time. No. It literally will just stop the game for a moment. And this is really not rubbing me the right way either because, again, it's the same argument with the always online connection ideal. Why would you need an internet connection for a single player game? It's one thing if it's online. Well, obviously, you need an internet connection. Otherwise, you can't play it online. But say in a game like, I don't know, what's a good example? Mass Effect. Why would you have an always online connection for a game that is pretty much devoted to single player? Say the next Final Fantasy as well when it comes out. Not the crappy online 14. No, forget it. But the next Final Fantasy, I guess the Lightning Returns, or say Final Fantasy 15 whenever that decides to be released, if that's at E3. Although I still, like I said in the last podcast with the PS4 announcement, I still believe that this whole thing that Square Enix said they're going to announce at E3, just to bring out that second guide, the absurdity of it, I still think it's going to be Final Fantasy 7. But anyways, a game like Final Fantasy, the single player kind of Final Fantasy, why would you want an internet connection on that? I mean, I had the rant about the next Xbox requiring you to install every game, and to me that's not too much of a big deal as long as the hard drive is large enough to handle it. Because I mean, really, as far as I know, I mean, you still have to put the disc in to play it, so having to install the game is not really changing anything. I mean, most people install the game just to have it run faster so the load times are cut down just a little bit. But this idea of a connection on at all times, there are a few issues with that. Not to mention, the fact that single-player games do not need it. If there's no reason to have a game if there's no reason for a game to have an online connection to it, if it has nothing other than DLC to require an online connection, then it shouldn't need one. And considering how it hasn't worked for all these other games like Diablo, like SimCity, that's really, really not the way you want to go right now, especially because it's fresh in people's minds just how much it's not worked, just how bad it's been. But the one thing that interests me the most, and that I'm kind of not too impressed by, at least with the potential, is Xbox Live. Because as most people know, you have to pay for gold. Silver is pretty much just having an account and being able to access some things. I think I've never really looked into silver because I've always had gold and it just renews itself. But if you have to have an always online connection, does that mean you have to buy Xbox Live? Does that mean you, on top of the console that you've just paid for, you are required just to use this console that you've bought to pay, I think it's $70 or $80 a month, or 70, or not a month, a year, just to play that console on top of it? If that was the case, why wouldn't you just do the smart thing and put an extra 50 or 60 or whatever X amount of dollars on top of the console price, and then do what PlayStation does and have your online connection access for free? The one thing that a lot of people tell me, being an Xbox guy, is why did you let Microsoft take advantage of you and buy gold? And they're right. PlayStation offers free online unless you get PlayStation Plus, but you don't have to. So it makes me wonder if just maybe Xbox Live might be for free on this new console. And if they do that, that would win a lot of people back onto Microsoft, I think, because that's a big reason why a lot of people did not, get a 360. All my friends pretty much went for their PS3 instead because, if they wanted to play online, it doesn't cost them anything. So, I guess in this case, one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to see Xbox Live become free, and maybe they'll have a system kind of like what PlayStation has with PlayStation Plus, and have something that you can pay for and get other stuff along with it. But to access, if you're going to make everything always on, then you need to be able to offer something along the lines of what PlayStation does for free online. Because it's not fair to the customer to make them pay extra just to have an internet connection on a console that really shouldn't be requiring any money on it whatsoever. But the other thing that I have to wonder is that, will this pretty much make Silver obsolete? And it's now just Xbox Live. And I really, really hope that's not what they're going with. It's going to be a very, very dumb move if they do that. I swear to you. And I know that a lot of people are thinking this right now too. If that's literally what it is, if it's literally you have to pay every month just to play online, and there is no way around it, just to play your Xbox, you have to pay the extra 70, 80 bucks a year for Xbox Live just to play it. Just to play the console that you've bought with your hard-earned money, that you paid for in full. You have to pay extra just to play it. It's like getting a used game and having to buy the online pass just to play it online. That's a whole nother argument. If they seriously announce that and that's how it's going to work, they've pretty much shot themselves in the foot, and they will take any advantage that they've had over the Wii and the PlayStation 3 here in North America, because in Japan apparently it hasn't sold very well at all. If they do that, they're screwing themselves over, because that is just a stupid, stupid decision if that's where they go. You have to offer something free for people, and if you're going to do always online, you have to at least offer them online connection for free so they can at least play the games that they've bought with their hard-earned money on the console that they bought with their hard-earned money. Please, Microsoft, do not make a stupid decision. Please be fair to the customers. Let them play their games. Do not make them play with an online connection at all times. And if you are, at least make it free for a basic membership so they can at least play the game and not have to worry about anything further. Always on connections to me has always been something that has always just not worked in my head. I've never understood the concept because every time it's been done, it fails. The common excuse is that, oh, well, we didn't expect there to be so much of a hit on the servers, so we had to shut them down, or it just got overloaded. So if you're telling me that every Xbox console, when the new one comes out, is going to have an internet connection, I don't know how much of a strain that would put on the servers, just because, I really don't know how their servers are. I'm assuming it's not nearly as fragile as a game's specific server is. I imagine, it's pretty much just going off an internet connection, and server-wise, it's not putting too much strain on it. I mean, I can't imagine that if it hasn't tripped anything yet. I really don't see that every Xbox being online, even if it was a large number at the same time. I don't think it would be that bad, but it still makes you think, because given how all these other games have tried this and it's failed miserably and the servers have crashed because of the overload, it does make you wonder, and it's a worrying thought. I don't want to ever think that at some point my Xbox, in the middle of just playing anything, is going to crash because the servers got overloaded. That's a very worrying thought, although I really can't see that happening. So, with all that being said, it's an idea that I feel I shouldn't be freaking out too much about, because until I know all the facts, it's kind of hard to make a decision. But the potential and the possibilities about it worries me, because given how the game industry, especially with the larger companies, have been looking at their customers, seeing how gullible and how easy they think we are, and in some cases they're right. Some of us are very easy to, make just give our money to. But I really hope that they're going to take the smart route and try not to piss all of us off. I mean, if I find out that you literally do have to have an online connection and you do have to pay extra for it, I might just go to PlayStation just because of that. I really hope I don't have to, and we'll know sometimes this month, I believe, because I think that's when they're supposed to be announcing it. If not, I can't see them waiting till E3 to show this. So I imagine at some point before E3 we will hear at least enough about it to make a pretty good judgment call on it. So we'll wait for it. Let's just hope that they don't make a stupid decision. That's all I'm hoping for. But speaking of stupid decisions, it's time for what I think is going to be a long running segment over the amount of time that we're going to be doing podcasts, because this seems to happen every once in a while where it gets pushed into the forefront. This is what I'm going to call Politicians Blame Video Games for Random Shit Again. So, U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein, I hope I pronounced that right. I'm very bad with pronunciations of last names. She is just another senator or politician on a list of a massive amount of senators and politicians and lawyers and whatever else who have decided to say how much of a negative influence games are on children. She said two lines that, I'm gonna, critique and, beat the shit out of for a little while. She said that games are a very negative role for young people and the industry ought to take note of that. That's why we have an ESRB. There we go. Problem solved. The other one is not going to make too people happy, and I don't like the fact that she brought this up. And she said, if Sandy Hook doesn't do it, that being the elementary school shootings, if the knowledge of these video games this young man played doesn't referring to the killer, then maybe we have to proceed, but that is in the future. I'm assuming to proceed, she means to start looking into ways of really regulating things. And again, that's why we have the ESRB rating system. Is it to the point that all these old, uptight women and men who don't know jack about this industry, do any of them know that this system exists? I swear to God, they claim that we are not regulating things properly, or that all these games are falling into the hands of kids who shouldn't be playing them, and that, there's nobody's doing anything about it, and there's not anything in place. The ESRB system works, and the only reason that it doesn't work is because parents do not read them, because they don't think that it exists, because they're too busy trying to please the kids that's crying in front of them. And the fact that she had the gall to bring up the Sandy Hook shooting just because this guy, who I'm not going to mention his name because we don't want to put this guy up on a pedestal by name, they said he had been playing Call of Duty. Oh my God, here we go again with Call of Duty. It's pretty simple, and it's really, really stupid that people keep blaming games like Call of Duty for shootings and stuff. I've played shooters for years. I've been playing since Counter-Strike Source came out. I have never fired a gun in my life. That's not just because I'm in Canada. I've fired a BB gun once. Fired it once. Having that in my hands, regardless of whether that gun can really do any damage, does not make me a very happy person, and I don't feel like ever wanting to shoot a gun in my life. A real gun in my life, I could live in America. I could literally move to America tomorrow and live there for the rest of my life. I would never shoot a gun. I have no interest in shooting a gun ever. I'm not against guns. We're not going to get into that conversation. But quite frankly, I have absolutely no interest in firing a real gun. And I am someone who is that textbook person who plays shooters constantly. The fact that they think that a video game costs someone to murder tons of children at an elementary school is absolutely ludicrous. The reason, quite frankly, that this guy did this is because of a lot of mental issues. That is up for speculation, but it certainly is not because of a video game, of something that isn't real. And the fact that yet another person has the nerve to put us up there like we are apps just nothing more than terrorists is just unbelievable. It's getting to the point now where every time I see one of these stories, I just feel like I need to bash my head against a wall because it is getting so repetitive and so overdone and so overblown that it's really driving me crazy. The reason that these games fall into the hands of children, it has nothing to do with the stores, with the developers, with the publishers, with anybody. It has to do with the parents not looking. It has to do with them not looking at the ratings, seeing that this game is rated T for teen or rated M for mature. That's 17 plus. Teen obviously being 13 plus. If their 11-year-old son asks for Grand Theft Auto 5 when it comes out, she should right away look at the label, see that it's rated M for mature, 17 plus. If she keeps looking at the box, she'll turn it over. She'll find another sticker on the corner that will say all the things that are in there: excessive violence, excessive swearing, partial nudity, or actual nudity. Who knows what's in it? You know, it simply comes down to the fact that these people are not reading and they're not researching. And once again, it's like with Obama putting out another, grant for research on the effects of video games on kids, and it's been done so many times. Quite frankly, a lot of people are mad because they're wasting money. You know what? I hope they waste their money, find the same results that they found every time, that it has nothing, no correlation with behavior in kids. I hope that once again they waste all that money on that result, and that just makes them think again, wow, that was really dumb of us. I know they won't think that because, like, oh, well, that's not the answer we were hoping for, but I guess we'll take that and maybe we'll try again 5 years down the road. When is it going to get to the point that we're going to be treated properly? I know it was the same way with music. It's the same way with film. Back in the, it's always going to be like this. It makes me wonder what the next thing's going to be that they end up using as a scapegoat. Because right now, I don't think there's anything out there that I can think of that could become that new scapegoat. Because there's not really anything that's hitting big in the entertainment industry, just like games did, just like music did, just like films did. There's nothing else really coming out that could take that place. So I have a bad feeling that we're going to be in this spotlight for a long, long time. I don't get why these... Actually, no, you know what? I do understand why these people keep doing it. It's the same reason why a lot of parents do it. It's something that they don't understand. It's something that is unknown to them. Most people, and I'm one of these too, I'm not a huge fan of change. So when something drastic happens, and if you can't keep up with it, especially with technology, if you can't keep up with it, your first indication is not to like it because you don't understand it. The problem with politicians is that most of them are old, way, way beyond the point that they obviously, they might have been pretty much parents to kids who started playing Pong. And I mean, the idea really is that they don't understand this industry. They don't understand this medium. It's going to come to a point where I think 20 years down the road, we're going to be still slowly taking over, and we're going to be the ones saying, this is nothing. Don't worry about it. There really isn't a problem. Because there isn't a problem. Games are not causing any problems. The only thing they're doing, really, is taking money out of people's wallets. That's really it. Because again, the argument comes up as well, that it's keeping kids from being social. And that idea has come onto me as well, where some people think that because I play games a lot that I'm not social. I have over 70 people on my Xbox account that I can talk to at any time, and I hold really, really good conversations with. Whether I've met them in person or not is completely obsolete. That has nothing to do with it. It really doesn't change anything. The fact of the matter is there are people that I know that I have known for years now, especially on my account, because it's at least 5 years old, and I can hold a conversation with them just like I would with any other friend. And to me, that's being social. Whether someone thinks that or not is completely irrelevant. That's not their decision to make. It's my decision to make. And the same goes for any other kid who plays video games. They know the distinction between reality and fantasy. They know that in real life, you're not going to get 100 experience for every kill you make. You're not going to get a point for every kill you make. And they sure as hell know that when you shoot someone and kill them, they're not coming back. There's no respawn. They're not stupid. Kids are not stupid. Adults think we're all stupid. We're not stupid. We know what we're doing. We know what's going on. We know the difference between reality and fantasy. We know that what goes on in a video game is not real. We know that it's an over-exaggeration. So for the love of God, to any politician out there, although I'm sure nobody's listening, no politician would listen to something like this because that would give them information about the industry that would actually help them make a proper decision. And they wouldn't want that. They want to make their own decision on what they see and what they perceive. Video games have nothing to do with the effects going on with kids. It has nothing to do with it. It's not causing kids to be violent. It's not causing kids to be antisocial. It's all in the head. It's all in their brains. It's all in their minds. It's stuff that happens because of things outside of video games. It has nothing to do with it. Video games actually gets kids to talk more. I've completely changed the way that I speak because of games, because I've been able to be more open. And people are thinking, well, that's because people don't have to look at you. Yes, but that's translated. Over time, I've been able to talk to people a lot differently than I would have 5-6 years ago. Because once you start getting that feeling that people actually, they're listening to what you have to say and they're not, criticizing you for it or making fun of you for it, over time, you eventually will come to the conclusion that, you know what? I think this is me. I like this. I like how people are responding to this. So I'm going to try this in real life. And that's how I've gotten to where I am now. If you looked at me 5 years ago, you would never see me think of doing something like this podcast, to be honest. I was not much of a talker then. And it came down to all the online games that I've played, being able to voice myself. And it came down to being a musician as well on the side, where I got to play a couple shows on stage, and that really helps me let loose. So over time, because of those two things, I've been able to become the social guy that I am. It's also not turned me into a violent psychopath. So, for the love of God, can we drop that conversation? Video games have nothing to do with school shootings. It has nothing to do with violence in young kids. So get over it. Get the hell over it. So with that being said, we are almost at the end of the show, so I'll give you an idea of what's coming up. Like I said, this new vision that I have for the channel is to start doing a lot more videos, to start doing stuff with BioShock. I am planning on doing some online games with NHL 13 and MLB 2K13. I'm going to try to have ones that I win in, but I can't always guarantee that because sometimes I choke. Yeah, But, I might think of doing some Minecraft stuff too, because the new update recently came out, so I've been playing around with that. So there's a lot going on, and you never know what else can come. Ideas come at, any point. The last thing we're going to go out with is what we're going to end off every show with, to give you an idea of what's coming out this week, because I'm releasing this podcast every Sunday, or at least that's the plan, so I'll give you the releases for the entire week. This week, I wish was better, because there's not a lot. On the 8th, we have the Halo 4 Castle map pack for the 360. That is a DLC pack. On the 9th, we have Age of Empires 2 HD for the PC, and this is such a cool name, Guacamelee for the PS3 and Vita. If I had a PS3 or a Vita, I might look into that just because I love the name of that. On the 10th, we have Age of Wushu for the PC. We have Shootmania Storm for the PC. We have Motocross Madness for the Xbox Live Arcade and Ocean City Racing for the PC. And on the 11th, I'm assuming because this is Nintendo release stuff on the eShop, there is Soccer Up 3D for the 3DS and Dylan's Rolling Western The Last Ranger for the 3DS. So it sounds like an exciting week. March was a really good month. I mean, we had BioShock, we had Gears of War, and that's another thing I need to get into. I need to that might be another thing that I do. I'll have to record a review for Gears of War Judgment because it is a really good game, and I really need to express to people that this game is kind of revitalizing the series. So that's another thing to look forward to. We are at the 45-minute mark. I'm surprised I actually almost made it to an hour. I could have had more stuff, but I felt like those three things, the Disney shutting down LucasArts, the Xbox always online connection crap, and the another shot at the game industry because apparently we are all a bunch of violent psychopaths that are going to murder 30 people in a school just like that. So, with that being said, thank you very much for listening. I hope that this becomes a regular thing. I hope that I can really put something out there that's really entertaining for you guys. I know that sometimes, when I talk, I go off on a tangent or sometimes I take an extra second. None of this is being edited. Just so you guys know, none of this has been edited. This is literally me talking straight into this microphone for 46 minutes. I don't like the idea of editing podcasts because it doesn't feel like a conversation anymore. When me and Brian record all his podcasts, those were all done live. There was no editing to that. And the reality is that if this was a live radio show, there'd be no redos. So I like the idea of not touching the audio to this because it makes it real. I want this to be real to you guys. I don't want this to be fake. I don't want this to sound like, I've picked out only what's the best. I did this for 2 hours instead of one, and I've literally just kept picking out the pieces that I like the best. Like I said certain lines over and over again, trying to find the best phrase so it looks like I've done this really good. I don't want to be this perfect professionalist kind of guy. I want to be the guy that just straight up talks to you like another guy. A friend talking to another friend. That's all it is to me. Because to me, this is my passion. This is what I deem to be fun. I don't want this to seem like something that I'm trying to make this into work. I want this just to be like I'm talking to you. I'm talking right now to what's in front of me is a tabletop hockey set, but I'll imagine that's a couple people. Let's just put it that way. I'm crazy enough that I think I could pull that off anyway. So with that being said, again, thank you very much for listening, and hopefully in the future this gets even bigger, and I hope that you guys share this with people if you like this. There's a lot of things that I'm looking into in the future. I might start doing some Q&A stuff if things really start moving with the viewership. Like I said, I am looking into putting this on iTunes, and so there's a lot coming. I'm really excited for that. Again, I know I've said this so many times. Thank you very much for listening, and you guys have a great week.